I wasn't invited to my own father's retirement dinner. "What would you even talk about?" he said, scoffing over the phone. "You left the family name for, what, a website?" I didn't argue. I'd been invisible to them for 5 years, until a young woman stood up at his farewell gala and made a toast that changed everything. Subscribe for more real stories that hit deep and stay with you. My name is Daniel Reyes. I'm 34, and I live in Brooklyn, New York. I used to work in high finance, doing 80-hour weeks on Wall Street. I made great money, and my family loved to brag. Until I burned out. I walked away from it all to build a free online financial literacy platform for low-income students. My family thought I lost my mind. Now I quietly help thousands learn what I wish I'd known at 18. I didn't make a big announcement when I quit my job. No dramatic LinkedIn post, no farewell lunch. Just a quiet email to HR and a cardboard box of desk plants and coffee mugs. My dad didn't even ask why. He just said, "Well, if you can't hack it, you can't hack it." I moved into a tiny studio in Bed-Stuy, subletting from a jazz musician. I spent my savings on UX courses and spent nights designing what would become MoneyMap, a free gamified platform teaching teens how to budget, invest, and escape predatory loans. I worked 12 hours a day for no pay, but for the first time, I could breathe. My mom stopped bringing me up at dinner parties. My uncle said I was finding myself, which was code for screwing up. My cousins thought I was a burnout case. The hardest part? I started to believe them. Then one night, I got my first message through the site. A 17-year-old girl from the Bronx. "Your app helped me convince my mom not to take out a payday loan. Thank you." I stared at it for 10 minutes. It was the first time I felt like I hadn't made a mistake. 6 months later, I showed up for Thanksgiving dinner with a bottle of mid-shelf wine and a pie from a local bakery. My brother greeted me with a smirk. "Still doing that blog thing?" My dad didn't look up from carving the turkey. The meal was long and polite, the way only cold silences and forced smiles can be. My cousin Ethan had just made junior partner at his firm. My dad beamed like he was his actual father. When the conversation shifted to money, someone joked, "Maybe Daniel can build us an app to help with taxes?" And everyone laughed like it was the punchline to a joke I didn't tell. I looked at my mom, hoping for a lifeline. She offered a soft smile, then looked away. Later, as I grabbed my coat, my sister walked me to the door. "You know, you're not crazy," she whispered. "Dad just doesn't know how to talk about things he doesn't understand." I nodded, holding in the lump in my throat. On the subway ride home, I opened the analytics dashboard on my phone. MoneyMap had crossed 10,000 users. None of them were in that room. A year in, I pitched MoneyMap to a public high school in Queens. Most principals hadn't returned my emails, but this one did. "We don't have much," she said, "but we've got kids who need this." So I showed up every Tuesday, teaching budgeting to students who juggled part-time jobs, caregiving, and rent stress before they could vote. They were curious, raw, and smarter than I'd ever been at their age. I showed them how compound interest worked, how to spot a scam, how credit scores shaped their future. One girl, Amina, asked me if she could use my slides to teach her mom. She did. 2 months later, her mom opened her first savings account. They emailed me a selfie holding her bank card. It became a thing. Students started sending screenshots of their budgets, celebrating $100 emergency funds like trophies. Then one day, a teacher pulled me aside. "Your name's come up," she said. "At the DOE, quietly, they're talking about expanding this." I nodded, stunned. It was the first time anyone with power had taken me seriously. It came in a thick ivory envelope, addressed in looping script. "You are cordially invited to the retirement gala of Dr. Alejandro Reyes, my father. the celebrated economics professor, the man who hadn't said the word money map out loud once in 5 years. I wasn't sure if it was a mistake or a peace offering, but curiosity won. IRSPED. The night of the gala, I stood at the edge of the ballroom in a borrowed blazer, nursing a club soda and watching my dad hold court. Former students, deans, think tank types, all praising the legacy of a man who raised graphs like children. Not once did he glance my way. Then the speeches began. My sister presented a slideshow. My brother read a letter from a senator. And then came the surprise speaker, a young woman in a sharp suit with bright eyes and calm confidence. "My name is Amina Yusuf," she said. "I'm the first in my family to graduate college. I now teach financial literacy in underserved schools, and I got my start thanks to a platform called Money Map." I froze. She smiled. "Created by one of the most quietly impactful people I've ever met, Daniel Reyes." The room turned toward me. The applause was awkward at first, confused, polite. Then it grew. My dad didn't clap. He just stared at me like I'd suddenly spoken fluent Greek. Amina walked over and hugged me. "Thank you," she said, into the mic this time. "You changed my life." People turned back to my father, waiting for his reaction. He stood up slowly, walked to the podium, adjusted the mic. I braced myself. "I've spent my career teaching the theory of economics," he began. "My son taught its purpose." You could hear a pin drop. "He didn't follow in my footsteps," he continued, his voice shaking slightly. "He walked his own path, one I didn't understand and frankly didn't support. But tonight I realize he's built something more vital than I ever did." He looked directly at me. "I'm proud of you, son." My throat tightened. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as a failure, not as a disappointment, but as someone who mattered. Later, my uncle slapped me on the back. "Guess the blog turned out okay, huh?" I smiled. "Yeah, I guess it did." In the weeks after the gala, everything changed. Quietly, but unmistakably. My mom called just to ask how I was doing. Not about my work, not about my rent, just me. My brother texted me a screenshot of Money Map and said, "A friend at work shared this. Didn't even know it was yours. That's legit?" Even my dad emailed. Subject line: lunch? Meanwhile, the Department of Education officially adopted Money Map as part of a pilot program across 10 schools. I was suddenly in meetings with people who had once ignored my emails. They asked about scaling, licensing, even TV spots. But the moment that hit hardest was when Amina invited me to her classroom. Her students had made posters. "Thank you, Daniel. You made money make sense." One kid had drawn a cartoon of me wearing a cape. "I tell them you're the reason I teach," Amina said. "You're the blueprint." I stood at the front of the room and realized something. I hadn't just earned respect. I'd built something bigger than all the recognition I once craved. I'd helped someone else become what I once needed. 6 months later, I found myself back at the university where my father taught for over 30 years. Not as a guest, not as a son, this time as a speaker. It was Financial Literacy Week, and Amina had arranged a joint panel. The auditorium was full of students, educators, and a few familiar academic faces. I wore a clean button-down and sneakers. No suit, no tie. Midway through, someone in the crowd asked, "Did your family support you when you walked away from finance?" I paused. "Not really. Not at first," I said. "But sometimes, doing what matters means disappointing people you love. Not forever, just long enough for them to see who you really are." The crowd was quiet, listening. Afterward, as I packed up, my dad appeared at the edge of the stage. No fanfare, no entourage. Just him. "You were right," he said. "You didn't waste your education. You used it better than I ever imagined." We shook hands. Then, without warning, he pulled me into a hug. No cameras, no speech, just father and son. On the walk home, I passed a high school and saw a flyer. Money Map Workshop, this Friday. No one recognized me. And that was fine. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was everywhere I needed to be.